Well, welcome everyone. Good afternoon. We certainly appreciate you joining us today. And today we're going over our Property Pro series. Steve is going to talk about the 127 touch point master database system that he has put together. And Steve is an expert at this. It's a way to, which everybody looks for. Certainly in a mortgage business, we're always looking for ways to capitalize on our database. It's one of the best places to get business, and yet most of us fall short. So it's really nice when you have somebody who's done it. They've done it over and over again. They know what works, and they put it all together. And that is Steve. He's been doing this for 25 plus years. Mm-hmm. Doesn't look old enough, does he? But yeah, he has. He's been doing it for a long time right here in Indiana. And I'm Rick Rippma. I am the hardworking mortgage guy. I'm at Advisors Mortgage Group. And I'll talk a little bit about how you can use mortgages to help on your database, getting business out of your database, but not just mortgages, because it's more inclusive than that. But Steve, anything to add to that?
No, I think we're ready to get started. I'm going to go over an overview of what we're going to talk about today, and our goal is for you to walk away with some actionable items such that you can implement them immediately and start seeing results. And that's really what we want to do, is provide value for you and your business so that you can see some growth, not just in the next year, but hopefully within the next month, and start to see some activity from that. So that's really what we're doing. These are all things that I have done myself for my own database over the past 25 years. Obviously, I didn't start out with 127 touch points. I've added them over the years and refined them and so forth. So what you're seeing is what I've done, and we'll talk about what that looks like. We'll talk about different databases that you can use and so forth. So, Rick, is there anything else you wanted to add before we jump right in and get started?
No, I'm just really excited to hear this, because I've worked with databases since 1991. And I think it's one of the areas that many people in sales lack, and they even when they have it, they don't use it. And I have found that what worked for me 10 years ago doesn't necessarily work today. So you always have to be making it better. And I think that's the beauty. You're such a logical, detailed, process-oriented person that you really have developed some phenomenal systems. I think everybody's going to really benefit from hearing your thoughts on this.
Well, thank you. All right, we ready to get started and jump in?
Yep. You want me to move on?
Yeah, let's go. So the next slide that we look at is we're going to go over the four most important things that we need to think about as we start talking about databases. And the first is, do you have a database? And Rick, there's a lot of people out there, a lot of real estate agents, salespeople, that don't even have a database. And a lot of people ask, especially newer agents that get in, you probably get people that ask as well, where they don't know what type of a database to use. And the best type of database to use is the one that you will use regardless of what type it is. But we're going to talk a little bit about different options that you have for different databases that are out there, and there's tons of them out there. And then we're going to talk about what you need to do and some ideas and tips and tricks to generate a good ROI from your database, and how do you lead generate to it. And then we're going to talk about organizing and leveraging your database. How exactly do you utilize the systems and the touch points to generate the contacts and the relationships that turn into business. And then the last one is I'm going to show you exactly the touches that I use. And we're going to talk about some different ideas within those touches that you can choose to use for your business that resonates with you the most. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So if you want to move on to the next one, Rick, we'll jump right into the meat.
Yes, and I have to apologize to Jackie because somehow I hit the wrong button and she's showing up and in the video. So thanks for joining us, Jackie. I didn't mean to do that.
Welcome. You're famous. All right. So what database is best? So the answer to this is it's the one that you use. It really doesn't matter. And if you poll 10 different real estate agents, you'll probably get 7 or 8 different databases that are being used. And it all depends on what you feel most comfortable with, what you will use, and what are you trying to leverage. So Rick has a very, very, very robust database, and it does a lot of stuff. And not everybody needs that functionality. But the other one is that if you don't need all that functionality and you just need a basic database and you don't need to be confused with all the extra features and the bells and whistles that a high-end database has, then number one, don't pay for it. And number two, you're just going to get distracted with all these functions and features that you don't really need. So what I did was I went out and I researched on several different sites for real estate, what databases are coming up as the most popular. And some of the interesting things was, as you'll see at the very top, was that some of the most well-known databases, at least from what I've seen people use and heard, weren't even in this. And that doesn't mean that they're not good databases. It just means they didn't show up in the results. So those are like Wise Agent. Some of you may use that. Top Producer is a huge one. And then also KV Core and Follow Up Boss. Those are massively popular databases that have thousands and thousands of users. So again, take this for what it's worth, but if you're looking to make a change to a database, if you're looking to improve your current database or add a database to something that you are not using, then you can look at what these are best known for. And that's what I kind of tagged each one of these for. So like Monday.com. These are, when it comes to percentages here, it is what is the percentage of user satisfaction for these databases. So that's what those numbers mean. Some of these databases like Monday.com I hadn't heard of before, but it came in as one of the highest generators for database approval for the users for anything that was out there rated, which I thought was kind of interesting. That's really good for sales or project management. Salesforce, everybody has heard of Salesforce. If you're in Indy especially, we've got a nice big building downtown with their name on it. That is used primarily for large organizations, enterprise level database, and it is totally customizable and so forth. You can use it for small real estate teams if you wish. It's probably going to be a little bit more than you need, but some people use it and they love it. It certainly can grow with you for beyond what you would ever need. HubSpot is another one, great as you can see for sales and marketing. Zoho is a CRM I had not heard of before. I started doing some research for this webinar. You can customize the heck out of that. It's kind of like Salesforce. A really good one that I've heard some of my coaching clients use is Pipedrive. And that's been coming up pretty frequently. This is really good if you are not looking to be a power database user. If you just need to get started, get your contacts in something, have to-dos, build some lists and so forth, that is a great one to look into in order to just get started. LineDesk is another one that comes up, and that's a big one in the real estate space, along with KV Core and Follow Up Boss and Top Producer. Wise Agent also. Those are probably the top 5 that I've heard of being used most recently. And then you also have Market Leader. Client communication, I've used Market Leader in the past. Pros and cons, as you can see, the user rating, acceptability rating on that was lower than the others. It was interesting to see that Wise Agent Top Producer only came at 60% approval from the users, which I was really surprised about, especially with Top Producer because it's been around for so long. But one, if you haven't looked at, is Follow Up Boss and KV Core. A lot of people love those, as well as Pipedrive. So if you're looking for some databases to look into, you might consider starting there. The other thing to think about is if you work for a brokerage, does your brokerage provide a CRM or a database for you? If they do, The one thing that I would be very careful about if you choose to use that database is how much of your data that you enter into that database can you export if something changes in your life and you decide to make a change. So just think about that. A lot of brokerages, they got a lot of stuff that you put in there for data, but a lot of the fields are not exportable. So I'm talking from personal experience here. So just think about that. Do you want a brand specific, or do you want something that can move with you if you choose to make a change down the road? So that's that. All right. Rick, anything on this? Any input or questions? Are we ready to go?
Well, we're kind of ready to go. The only thing I would say is that I can't stress how valuable it is to have a database, have a system, a CRM. Now, the reality is, if you're getting going, I always tell people you can start manually. When I started, the very first thing I did is I used 2 recipe boxes, and one of them had A through Z, and the other one had
Eric.
the month, and it had the months and the days, and that's how I did it. And then the reason is because when you're just trying to get going, you just have to use it, like you said. So make sure you're going to. If you start it manually, you'll tend to use it when it goes electronic. These systems just make it easier. They don't make it, they don't make you use it. They make it easier.
That's exactly right. The best database is the one that you use at the end of the day. That doesn't matter if it's an Excel spreadsheet, if it's a recipe box, if it's Salesforce, if you go with the Cadillac of the CRMs, it doesn't matter. As long as you're committed to using it and hopefully knowing how to use it and utilize the features and functions of it, then it's the right one for you. That's the most important thing.
Yes.
All right, let's keep going. Okay, so this might be some of you may have heard this before, and if so, great. Some of you this might be new, but according to averages, if you talk to most real estate experts, they will tell you, and most of your company brands will tell you, that you should be getting about 10% of your database total numbers, total contacts in leads or business. 10%. So most of your experts and trainers will tell you that 10% of your database is turning over every single year. So if you have a 1,000 person database, you should be seeing about 100 people, 100 deals from that database every single year. The reality is, rarely do I see an agent that is actually hitting that 10%. So then that begs the question, where in the gap, the leads that you are getting versus the leads that you aren't getting, where is the gap? Where do those leads go? And the answer is to your competition. So if you want to harness the power of your database, you got to make sure you stay in front of them. And that's the same thing of, like, for example, take Coca-Cola. They've been around for, I don't know when they were founded, but well over 100 years. They still advertise a lot. They have multi-million dollar marketing advertising budget. Why? Because they need to stay in front of their customers all the time, or they lose market share to Pepsi or all their other competitors. And so if you've got one of the most recognized brands in the history of the world that is still spending time touching their customers, what does that say about you as a real estate agent? You need to stay in front of your customers, in front of your clients, and taking for granted that just because you're in your database and you did a good job for them 3 years ago, that they're going to call you when they're ready to sell in 5 years is probably a pretty big assumption to make, and it may or may not be accurate. So I would recommend that you are leaking like a sieve a lot of business from your database if you are not staying in front of your database with a predictable, systematic, modeled system to stay in touch with your clients that are in there. The other thing that I would recommend is your contact quality. You've got to make sure that you've got the most important parts of your database record system kept up to date and populated. So, what this means from a very minimal standpoint is obviously you need a name, you should have an address, you should have a cell phone number, you should have an email address. And then I also recommend birthdays for everyone in the household, adults and kids, home anniversary from when they purchased the house, and then if the heads of household are married, a wedding anniversary date. If you have those, you're off to a great start. If you don't have those, there are some opportunities for improvement. And you could launch a whole strategy with generating this income from your database. So if your database, and rarely nobody has a database that has all that information for every single contact, or very few people do. So if you don't, then audit your database first and look for the contact quality that you have. And for any of those fields that you're missing, implement a system, create and implement a system for generating that information. And then you can start to do the touches that I'm going to be talking about here in a little bit. And we can talk about the different, how you should be doing it, when you should be doing it, and so forth. Rick, any comments on any of that?
No, you covered it perfectly.
All right, let's keep rolling. So, as we talked about before, repeat and referrals. So this is the bread and butter for anyone who's in sales, is it not? I mean, you need to have your business when you first start out is basically all cold people, or maybe friends and family that you have in your phone. And that's one of the first things that real estate offices will tell you is, well, if you don't have a database of people who are looking to buy, sell, or build, then get out your phone and start calling your contacts, right? And that's what almost every brokerage says, because you got to start from somewhere. And so your goal is to make sure that you are touching the people in your database. And whether that database is starting out as your phone or as an Excel spreadsheet or whatever, if you want to get to that 10%, you got to reach out and touch them. What this means is if you have like a 1,200 person database, so that's what I had in my database. And I would say, if you were asking me to be really honest and vulnerable, how many complete contacts did I have? It was probably close to 800. And I would say, from what I've seen from my coaching clients, that's fairly consistent from a percentage of complete filled out contacts versus incomplete contacts in database. Some people have less, or a few people have more, but that's fairly common. But you should be plugging into your schedule doing 20 outbound calls a day. And part of what these outbound calls can be when you first start is generating the data that you're missing in your database. That's what I would do first. You got to get the data, and then we can start touching on them in a meaningful and relevant way. Rick, any more insights on that?
Well, one question I had. So while you're updating the 20% that you don't have the information on, shouldn't you still be contacting the 80% that you do have all the information on?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's not a 100%. I need to go all in over here. You can, if it were me, I would start with doing 50-50. 10 people that you don't have the complete data records for, and then 10 people that you do, and just love on them and make your care calls, touch point calls, check-in calls, prospecting, whatever you want to call it. But you should be making those calls. And some of you may have heard this in that the relationship is in the conversation. If you're not having a conversation, you don't have a relationship with your clients. And clients buy, sell, and build based off of relationships with real estate agents. This is and always has been a relationship-based business. We are belly to belly, eyeball to eyeball, handshake to handshake business. It's about relationships. So if you have gotten out of conversation with your clients in your database, this is a great opportunity to reinvigorate that. I tell some of my coaching clients, send out a reconnect letter. Hey, I am sorry that we haven't been in touch. I am endeavoring to correct that, and I'm paraphrasing here. but you would write a quick letter and just saying, I'm going to be touching base with you on a regular basis. I want to be your real estate agent of choice. I want to be your economic expert for what's happening in the real estate market. I want you to feel free to call me. I'm going to be sending you information that is valuable to you, blah, blah, blah. So that's a great reconnect letter, because a lot of agents are like, well, gosh, Steve, I haven't talked to people in a long time. Okay, send the reconnect letter. And then let them know that you're going to be calling, and then follow through with it.
That's brilliant. The reconnect
All right,
letter
you want to move to
makes
the...
it a lot easier. You ready to move on?
Yep. So this next one, and what I did, just so you know, so I use my own numbers, my own database. So you guys can plug in your own numbers. I know some agents have 3, 4, 5,000 people in their database. But here's the deal. You cannot, it is physically impossible for you to have an authentic relationship with 5,000 people at once. It is impossible to do. So what I recommend is having a database that is workable, such that you can touch them on a regular basis and have a relationship with them. And I would argue that a 5,000 person database that is touched inconsistently and only periodically is a lot less valuable than a 400 person database that is touched consistently and systematically, in which you have a regular conversation and a relationship with those people. And prove me wrong, but there's a reason why I don't have more than 1,200 in my database. That's the number that I found was the maximum that I could service from a consistent touch point of view on a consistent basis. So pick your number, whatever that is. But the one thing that I would tell you is it's not always best to go big. I would, in my opinion, I would start small and go deep rather than go big and go wide. You're going to have a much better outcome by going deep with your clients and get into relationship with them, a real relationship, than just having a surface level relationship with a whole bunch of people, some of whom wouldn't even recognize you. The test is, if you were in a grocery store and you saw John Smith, who is in your database, would you, A, go over to John Smith, hey John, it's so great to see you. How's Nancy doing? Or would you go run around the end cap and go to another aisle because you don't remember what his name is? The point is, it's going wide versus going deep. If you're going deep, John is much more likely to send you a referral or to call you when they're ready to sell versus someone going wide and you got to scurry around the end cap to go to a different aisle because you're embarrassed you don't remember their name. That's the point. Now, am I saying you shouldn't farm and have farm people in your database? Absolutely not. That's not what I'm saying. Those people are on a separate touch point system, and they should be. But if you're going deep with relationships with these people, you're going to want to cull that database number down. So what this slide is, it kind of talks a little bit about what we've been talking about here, is that if you're not getting that 10% of business from your database, somebody else is, and you're losing business. This is business that should be inexpensive and relatively easy to get. It just takes time. And time, yes, is the most expensive currency that we all have. However, our business is based on touching our clients. So I would audit your database. Look at your numbers last year, this year. How many people, how many leads, how many repeat and referral clients did you get from your database versus the 10% number? And if there is a delta between the two, you've got some work to do. And we've already talked about what that might look like in order to get that number up to that 10%. Don't pay for leads. Don't go door knocking or open house holding or whatever, unless that's your jam. And if it is, awesome, do it. But this is going to be the highest yielding activity that you can do for your business, is focusing and loving on your database. I have not made, in my 25-year career, I have not made one cold call in my life. I have not made one door knock. And I stopped doing open houses 20 years ago. Now, am I saying don't do that? That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is my business is based on relationships, and I loved on and cared on my database, and it produced it into an almost $30 million a year business, predictably, every single year. So you can do that, and I didn't pay for leads. So you can do that kind of business without some of the other stuff that you may or may not like. Now, if you're one of the few people that loves door knocking or loves cold calls or calling FSBOs and expireds, do it. But don't forget to love on your database too. That's the point. Rick, any input there?
Well, yeah, I think one of the things, at least for me, that I have for a long time, I get in trouble on is I want to advertise or market to a huge group of people, and the reality is it doesn't take that many people to accomplish what we want to accomplish, right? So if you're a real estate agent and you want to do 30 million and your average price is 500,000, it takes 60 people a year, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why are you trying to market to 5,000? You just got to find those 60, and probably the best place is the people you know, or the people that you know who they know, right?
Absolutely.
So it makes total sense. It's the same. It just the other thing is on database, I have found that I use like an A, B, C, D, because you have to really be on the people that you want to contact a lot. Talk to them, build that relationship. They're going to be an A client. Maybe another one that's every 2-3 months, but because you do have to prioritize, or you can't get to everybody when you got a big database.
That's right. And Rick, whether you knew it or not, that was a great segue into our next slide.
And I didn't know it.
is segmenting our database. So if we were in a classroom setting, I would ask, how many of you have your database segmented? And I would guess 20% of the hands would raise. That's kind of what I've been seeing lately. What do I mean by segmenting? I mean prioritizing your clients. We all know that clients are not created equal. Here's what we know. You're only going to have, if you have a rating system of 1 to 10, 10 or 1 is someone who will never use you again. A 10 is an absolute raving fan, and they will tell anybody and everybody about you. They are your unpaid salespeople. And only 1 out of every 10 people is a raving fan. Why? Because you could have provided the best service possible, Disney level service, if you will, but their personality does not allow them to go be a raving fan for you. So don't waste your time on keep pouring into them and expecting a different result than what their personality is going to do. You need to identify the raving fan people. If you're familiar with the DISC personality scale or system, DISC, you are looking for your high I's. These are your life of the party people. If you're not familiar with it, these are the people that have bubbly personalities, outgoing, they're talkers, they love connecting with people. Those are the people that you want as your raving fan advocates. Why? Because they're unpaid salespeople. They will tell everybody they know about you. I'm one of those people. If I find somebody that does a really, really good job for me, you want me as a client, because I will tell everybody about you and your service. And I will do it probably better than some of your salespeople will, because I am so passionate about it. My daughter, I'll do it right now, Sparkle Buggy. If you like having your car detailed, they do a phenomenal job. James owns the place. I cannot tell enough good things about him. And I have told so many people about him. You want that same passion out of the people who are your 10s to be going out and singing your praises. So these should be segmented in your top VIP group of people. These are the ones that you pour into, you do extra for, you prioritize them, and I won't use the D word for discriminate against the others, because that's not what I mean. What I mean is that you do pay extra attention to these people. You pay attention to your others, but you pay particular attention to them. Here's another thing that I coach a lot. Come up with your top 10, 5 or 10 people that you will not work with. What do I mean by that? People who, if something went wrong in a transaction and you lost the relationship with them, that you would never forgive yourself. Think your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, your best friend. If those 5 people are people that you would never forgive yourself if something went south, and we all know that it can, these should be your untouchables. These are the people that you should have a referral relationship with another agent whom you trust, and you get a referral fee from them for taking care of the people that matter to you most. I know this sounds really weird, but just trust me. I have experienced this myself, and it was a really bad experience. Now, I've mended the relationship, but for the longest time, it was not good. So I have my off limits list, and I will not help these people personally, but I will have one of my trusted colleagues do it. So if you haven't done that in your database, have your untouchables. And you know what that is. If you don't have any, that's okay. If you have more than 10, that's okay. But these are people whose personal relationship that you value more than a business relationship. And there's usually 5 or 10 for just about everybody that they have. So the rest of the people, these are your top 10 list. So how I segmented my database, you don't have to do exactly what I did. You can do whatever works best for you. But just like Rick said, he has an A, B, C, D list. You can segment it by, I usually do it by numbers. So I have a top 10 list. These are my VIPs. They get the royal treatment because these people have referred me over and over and over again. Then we have our top 25 list.
These listings, right?
Thank you, Louise. We have our top 25 list. Now your top 10 list is included in your top 25 list. So as I keep going deeper in my database, all the people that came before them are also included in these touch points. And I'm going to tell you what these are here in a second. But you do a top 10, top 25, top 50, or top 100, top 200, and everybody else. So the people that you have in these segmented parts of your database should be getting progressively more intense touches. Until you get to your top 10, top 25, they should be touched at a minimum of once a month. And it should be multiple times a month, every single month. If you aren't touching them that much, you're missing out on some great opportunities. Think your high I cheerleaders. These are your cheerleaders. Make sure they know you appreciate them and show them that because they will sing your praises from the top of the mountains. And that's what you want. So we talked about accurate data. As you're going through your database, as you're making your phone calls, get updated information and just have it flag what information you need and just get it from them. It's not a big deal. Ask them. They'll tell you. Hey, I want to be able to celebrate you on your birthday. Would you mind sharing your birth date with me? I don't need to know the year, but just the date. So one of the things that I do, and you're going to see here in a second, is I do birthday and anniversary calls for every single one of my clients. So I've sold my real estate business, but I still touch on my clients. Why? Because I love making these calls. And I've been doing this for 25 years. And these people come to expect phone calls from me. And they love it. And they laugh. And we have a great relationship. And so a lot of them will tell me, Steve, you beat my mom to wish me a happy birthday today. Or I can always count on you to remember my birthday or my wedding anniversary. A little pro tip. If it's a wedding anniversary, call the guy about 2 days before the anniversary date and just remind him. He'll thank you. Trust me. Leverage automation. So this is where if you utilize one of those great databases that we talked about, you can automate stuff. Rick has an awesome database that he leverages and he automates stuff within it such that he creates a plan, an automation plan, and then he sets it and forgets it. So he doesn't have to keep touching the same people and going into it, doing the same activities every single time. He can set it up to work for him. And so it really, really helps to save him a lot of time. Rick, would you agree with that?
Yes, I agree 100%. That's it. You can't do everything that way. Of course, you can't make you have to call them, right? You have to talk to them. You don't build a relationship with the autos, but you can do some of it automatic, which saves you a lot of time.
Absolutely. So you're right. You cannot you cannot push off the relationship to a database. It's got to be you. You are the database. You are the person. And this is why, as agents leave real estate companies and change brands, change companies, this is why over 95% of the clients stay with the agent. Why? Because it's not about the brand. It's not about the company. It's about the agent. They're the ones that you have a relationship with, not the company. And that's why it's so important to keep that in mind as you're going through this process of updating information such that you can maintain that relationship with the clients. I'm in here tagging and labeling. What do I mean by that? Well, tag your clients as being top 10, top 25, top 50, top 100, top 200, whatever you choose. And then the other thing is that you can tag them for certain things. For example, maybe you are a car buff, and maybe you have 10 clients that are really into cars. And so maybe you tag those 10 clients and that you send them notifications and updates and information about car events that are happening around the city. How cool is that? You're sharing your passion, but you tag them for that. You could do that for anything. It could be cooking. Maybe you offer some cooking opportunities to some of your high-end clients in your database. And by high-end, I mean, I'm not talking about high price. I'm talking about the value of the relationship in that they send you lots of business. And then if you wanted to integrate with other systems, I know Rick, his database is pretty involved, but you can interact with a lot of social. So a lot of your databases will integrate with your social channels. It'll integrate with video, with audio, with phones, if you want to, like texting and that kind of thing. Some of you may use that already, but there's so much technology out there to help make your job a little easier for broadcasting information in a broadcast for a broadcast event. Like, for example, client appreciation party. If you're inviting your whole database, well, send them texts, send them emails, put them out on social. A lot of these databases can do that. Rick, any comments?
No, you're exactly right, though. My system can do all, you can get with every single one of them, but that's pretty much every system now.
Yeah.
No social, no problem.
Very robust. All right, let's move on.
Yep.
So the next one we're going to be talking about is VIP treatment, as I said. So this is, you are, and I hate to say it, but you are discriminated against people. And it's not because of any protected classes. Let me make that very clear. This is all about the people who know, like, and trust you. So you are giving people VIP treatment who are your most valuable clients. So my database has what is called a referral tree on it. So I can click a person's name and it will show me all the referrals that came out of that person, and the referrals of those referrals, and the referrals of those referrals, and so on and so forth. And it adds all the information up, all those sales up, and shows me what the lifetime value is of this client. Now, am I telling you to assign a dollar figure to every single client? No, that's not what I'm telling you. But it will help you with segmenting your database to see who is the most valuable to in your business. We run a business. We don't run a charity. So you have to make some business decisions. Who is the most valuable? With that being said, sometimes, and if you're one of my coaching clients, I use this a lot, you got to top grade. You have to audit your lists every single year, or sometimes more often, but at least every single year. Some of your clients are going to fall out of your top 10 list, fall out of your top 100 list. They might move to everyone else, and that's okay. But maybe somebody else needs to move in, and you need to love on them some more. So just think about that. But it's all about maintaining the relationships that you have. The other thing that I would suggest is, if you have some of your top clients, tell them. The thing that surprises me the most is so many agents have really great clients that are so valuable to them and they love them, but they don't tell them that they're one of their VIPs. How good would you feel if you had your real estate agent or insurance agent or whatever say, hey, Rick, I just want you to know you are such a valuable part of my business. You are one of my top 10 clients. You are my VIP. I want you to feel loved on, that you get such magical service that you continue to introduce me to people you care about, because our relationship is really important to me. Now, I don't know about you, but I haven't heard that from anybody. But if I did hear that from somebody, it would just reinforce my behavior to want to go out and spread the word even more with people. Ooh, I'm in top. And then do something special for them. We'll talk about that on the next slide. So you can do, at the very least, we talked about make birthday calls. You know, your top 10, your top 50, you better have birthdays for all of them and their kids. Nothing gets more to parents than going through their kiddos. And so I always make sure I have birthdays for all the kids. How do you get those? On listing appointments or buyer consultations, have an all about you form and have them fill it out. They'll tell you. Birthdays, anniversaries, favorite alcoholic drink, favorite non-alcoholic drink, favorite sports teams, favorite lunch spot, favorite dinner spot. You've got all this information that rarely do I have somebody who refuses to sign to fill that stuff out. All this information you can put into your database. Those are great tags that you can use. And then as you are doing things special for these people, you can tailor that to exactly what they told you they like. So you don't even have to guess. So if you're taking a client out to lunch and they say, hey, and they put on here, I really like Kona Grill. Well, you know what? Just so happens that we're going to go to Kona Grill today for lunch. Would you like that? Oh man, yeah. And you know what? 90% of the time they forgot they told you. And so now you look like a genius. And they're like, man, how did you know that, Steve? Just ask them and they'll tell you, and then they'll forget they told you, and then you look like a rock star. So it's really easy, but ask them for that stuff. VIP only events. Another trick that you can do is if you want to invite your whole database to, well, what's coming up right now, fall festivals. Lots of agents are doing fall festivals. Then invite your VIP clients first. Give them early admittance and tell them that, until, Monday or Tuesday, the 3rd of September, you have VIP access to this event. We're only taking a limited number of people, but we want to make sure that you have the opportunity to sign up for this first. And then we're going to open it up to the rest of our clients on the 3rd. So make sure you get in now. What did you do? You just made them feel special. And you can still open it up to your entire database, but you're giving them preferential treatment. And there's nothing wrong with that. So you do want to make sure that as you go through this, you continue to take that personalized approach. You continue to make sure that you give the transparency to people. Let them know that they're in your VIP club. I've got one client who he calls it his Diamond Club, and everything is themed around diamond service, and he gives some special diamond service to his top VIP clients, and it's wonderful. All right, you want to move on to the next one, Rick?
Yep.
So let's get into let's talk about specifics. And then right after this, Rick is going to show you some of the mortgage stuff that's pretty cool. So here are some ideas. And I also have a slide on here talking about events. So you can, there are some ideas for events if you're struggling with what kind of events should I host. Touching your database. So if you do all of this stuff that you see on this slide, you will hit 127 touches for your clients a year. So then these are things that I all did. A monthly newsletter. I sent it via mail and I sent it via email, both of them. The email one had a video component to it as well, where I introduced what was happening in my life, my family's life, whatever. People love seeing that. I was vulnerable. I shared some losses that I had as well as wins. People love that. I do a Fun Day Monday quiz. So once a month, I send out a Fun Day Monday quiz for all of my clients. It's a quick multiple choice thing. I usually get about 50, 60 people who respond to it with the right answer, and then I give the winner a $25 Amazon gift card. Real easy, and they love it. An annual equity analysis. That's something easy to do. If you haven't done it, really good insurance agents do this on a regular basis, or financial advisors, they do an analysis of your insurance policies. Mine just did that with me yesterday. Why not do an equity analysis with your clients? Great opportunity to stay in touch with them and find out if they're looking to move, and they will tell you that. Colts schedule magnet or college football teams. I did old school wall calendars as well. You can do monthly, quarterly phone calls. You should be contacting your database a minimum. Your everyone else should be a minimum of every 6 months. Everyone else should be quarterly or monthly. And you determine how often you can touch the top database. But if they're in your top 10, top 25, top 50, you should be contacting them every month, minimum. Pop buys. What are pop buys? A lot of you know this. This is a strategy that's used by a lot of your big coaches, and you drop by with a special gift to the client to their house. Maybe it's pies, maybe it's pumpkins, maybe it's an American flag for July 4th. You could do all of those if you want. There's some agents that I coach that do this once a quarter, and so that's 3 touches. You don't even have to talk to the client if you don't want to. You can just leave it on their porch and send them a text or an email that it's there. Happy hours. I love my happy hours. I still do happy hours. Every month I do a happy hour, and we invite clients, and about 50 to 60 people come, and then we get sponsors for them. It is a wonderful way to connect with people, and then I encourage my clients to bring friends. A lot of them will bring friends that they want to introduce to me to be a client, and that's how they get to meet me and my team. And so it's a great opportunity to do that in a low pressure environment without any expectation of business. It's wonderful. I always did a minimum of 2 client events a year. I would usually do more than that. Like once a quarter, I would do 1 big event. And I'll show you what those are here in a minute, so I'm not going to drone on that for much longer. But every event you do should have multiple touch points with it. Emails, phone calls, text messages, postcards. That's how you get up to 127. You can leverage communication with these events a lot. Here's the trick. It doesn't matter if your clients show up to the event or not. The most important thing is that they knew they were invited, and you touched on them several times throughout that invitation process. That's the gold in having events, and if executed properly, you can leverage the heck out of your database. And frankly, I would love it if I only got a few people to show up at my events. It'll save me a bunch of money. But if they feel loved and they feel invited, and I've just continued that relationship with them, and they send me referrals, that's the best of all worlds. And I didn't even have to pay for their drinks and their food. So I'm being a little sarcastic here, of course, but that's the thing. It doesn't matter how many show up. The success is how many touches you got while you were doing the invitation process. We talked about the birthday, anniversary calls, texts, emails, cards. Yes, I do all of those for each one of those, for each person in the family. And if you have an admin, leverage it out to them. My monthly newsletter mailing, as I mentioned, my 2 postcards a month. I always did 2 postcards a month. EOS and RRS, that stands for Evidence of Success. Write a short little postcard with a story of a client that you helped, and then let them know that this is the type of client that you're looking for that you can help too. It's evidence of success. Works really well. The other one is a referral reminder system. This is a postcard that is strictly built on asking for referrals. It's different than the evidence of success, but you are reminding them to send you referrals and that you're going to take great care of them when they do. So those are just a few of the things. If you do all of this at a high level, you're more than 127 touch points a year. Rick, anything else in there?
No, I think that it's vital that you do it, but it also matters that whatever you're putting out means something to the client. Otherwise, you could put out too much and it just kind of irritate them. So it always has to be something like you were talking about that they find value in.
Mm-hmm. And not all of them will come to all these. And that's why you have to do a lot of different stuff, because you're going to have different things that resonate with different clients. Speaking of that, let's go to the next slide. I put down some things that I've done in the past. Types of, my last one got cut off a little bit. That's okay. So different types of client events. I'm sure you know a lot of these. And I won't read all of them. You can look at them. But these are just some ideas. I mean, we can come up with over 50, 60 that you can do. One of the best ones that I have ever done is a casino night for my VIP clients. Rented out an area. I asked everyone to dress up in black tie attire. and we had a ball. He volunteers for Sertoma, and they have all the people and all of the tables, the chips, everything, where they do the whole event for you. It's awesome. And that it goes to donations for children. For Children's Riley Hospital is one place, as well as I think it's child hearing loss. So really, really cool group. And I'll tell you, they're all retired guys, and they love talking to people. My clients told me at the end of that event that I did, this was the most fun that they've ever had, because the guys who worked the tables were so fun. And they just love talking to all my clients. And we had a blast. So anyway, casino night, if you haven't done it, you can get sponsors for it, so it doesn't cost you a bunch. I think it cost me $1,500 total for everything, because I had sponsors for it. But it was a great thing. Blood drives are good. Pie giveaways, I always do that in around Thanksgiving. Valentine roses pickup. Hit all the guys and have them do it on their way home to their wife. And give them roses that they can take. You will be they'll be indebted to you forever. Another thing you can do is raffle off 4 reservations at nice restaurants. You're not paying for anything. You just have the reservations, and have people call in to get those for last minute procrastinators. You've already have the reservations, but have people call in. Did you forget to make your Valentine's Day reservation? I've got you covered. I've got 4 reservations at Sullivan's Steakhouse. The first 4 people to call me will get the reservations. And then you have a little something extra for them on the table, like a bottle of wine or a dessert or something like that. But you get a lot of mileage out of that. You sensing a theme with the whole guys that forget stuff. You be the memory for the guys. Make them look good in front of their spouses. So anyway, you want to move on, Rick, so we can finish this up and get on to your next some of the mortgage stuff. So mentioned here, what do you want in your database? Contact information. I always had property details of all the sales that I had for my clients, which includes your transaction history. I always took very detailed notes. The bigger your team is, the more important the notes are that should go in your database. Who communicated with your client last and what was said? This also, God forbid, if you were to be dragged into court, you can have those notes subpoenaed, and as long as you kept accurate records of everything, that is a really good get out of jail free card, assuming you did things the right way. But it definitely will help. Referral sources, I mentioned the referral tree. This is a great opportunity to keep track of who referred whom, and there's a whole system around that too that I won't go into, but there's a whole system that you can do when you get a referral as to what you do for the referring source after you get that referral, and that's a whole nother set of touch points that you can do. And then you got to measure it and see where, like at the end. So Kylie, who is my admin, she made sure that she had spreadsheets of where all of our business came from, and she drilled real deep. So I could look at it as a business owner and say exactly where my business came from and where I lost my business. Okay, Rick, let's talk about some of the mortgage part of this and how you can implement this into your database.
Yeah, one thing everybody has to understand. First, I understand that mortgages are a necessary evil. Nobody really wants a mortgage. They just have to make this all work, right? So, and this is not just about mortgages that I'm going to talk about. It's just that that happens to be what I do. If you look at this and you think of your other partners that you work with, you can do the same thing with them, just in a different way. So if you have an HVAC company, in the fall or in the spring, you can work with them to maybe offer a coupon for discounts, or just reminding your buyers, your customers, your database that they need to do this. This just happens to be one way. When rates happen to drop, everybody can benefit. Many people, not everybody, many people can benefit. So I'm not going to go through this in a great detail, just for time purposes. But the basics are, you want to stay in touch with them as rates fluctuate, not just for them so that they could refinance, but also for anybody they know that might also need that. And you want to be the contact. Not that you want to learn and be the mortgage person, but you do want to be the main contact. They call you to get the referral to a lender, to your partner. Now, your partner should have information. Like for when my real estate buddies, my friends, the guys I work with, the women I work with, this is part of what we do. We go, and this is just showing you what the market's done since 2019. All right, now this is opposite of rates. This is the mortgage-backed security bond market. So as it goes up, rates go down. As it goes up, down, rates go up. So you can see back here, rates were a lot lower because our market was way up. Now we're over here. We are starting to move up. We've seen rates get better. You can see how low we got, which was really difficult on rates. I won't go through why all this is going to matter, but it does. But you can, basic on this is I just want you to see the fluctuation in rates. You can see all this, basically every day it fluctuates. So it's just one of those things. It's an easy thing to stay in touch with your clients. And how much can they benefit? All right, so I ran this chart. I wanted to make sure I could see it because my eyes aren't as good as they used to be. So I'm going to start on the bottom one. And the break even, now what I did is I took 0.5% lower, a full percent lower, and 1.5% lower. And I used a 7.375 interest rate, which probably many of your clients have, or maybe even higher. 0.5 point, now this is a fairly large loan, but the percentages work, whether it's a lower loan or not. But on a fairly large loan, I think this was a $400,000 loan, it takes with 1.5% lower rate, it only takes 2 months to get your money back. With a full point, it takes 3 months, and with the 0.5 point, it takes 7 months. So they get their money back very, very quickly. Most experts say if you can get it back in 12 months, it makes sense. And part of the issue is that people will think, well, rates are going to continue to go down, but there is no guarantees. I have found that if you can get a better rate and you feel comfortable with it, I would do it. Above that, I think this is even more impressive. On the bottom one here, you save $11,000 over the first 5 years. Okay, $11,000 over the first 5 years on a 0.5%. So that's how much you can save your client. This at 1% lower, they save $25,000. Again, this is going to be relative to the loan size, and with 1.5%, they save $38,656. Significant savings that you can take credit for, and they'll value you additionally for helping them in that area. And now, how do you get a hold of them? I just gave some basic examples of an email, an SMS or a text, a voicemail or a call. I just find that I call people and I many times get their voicemail, so it's the same conversation. This is just what I put together to give you some idea of what you could say, what you could do. I suggest you do all three. I suggest that you let them know, hey, I sent you an email, I sent you a text. If you're doing the voicemail, if you're in the email, say, hey, I'll send you a text and I'll send you and I'm going to give you a call. That way they know you're there for them, and they also on all their platforms, because you never know what they're going to see and not see. I just find that to be extremely valuable and staying in front of them. So, Steve, anything to add?
No, this is just another tool in your toolbox for a touch. That is probably the biggest reason why agents, and myself included, felt intimidated for calling their database. What do I say? Well, here's some great scripts for you to say. If you have an event on a regular basis, like a happy hour, call to invite them to an event, or your fall festival or whatever, or you have changes in the market, changes in mortgage rates, changes in the inventory. Those are great reasons to call your client to make sure that they are updated and let them know what's happening in the market. You want to be the economist of choice for your clients. You do not want them to get their information from the news. That is, or even worse yet, social media. So be the one who is providing the information, and you can leverage your lender to help you with that as well.
Yeah. And Steve, a couple things. One, the news, as you said, is most of the time it's wrong. So I wouldn't count on the news. And secondly, if your lender can't provide the information, I would be more than happy to provide it. Now remember, these are refinances. These aren't purchases. So you're not cheating on your lender. But if they can't provide the detail that really helps the customer, individual detail showing them exactly what they can save and exactly the benefit of refinancing, I can do that. I can do it even if you use your lender, but I can certainly do it if you want me to work with them.
And you do a great job. You do a great job. All right, let's bring this home, Rick. So touch points, I'm not going to go over all these. We've talked about a lot of these already. We talked about email, phone, social media, events, surveys. We surveyed all of our clients after the sale to see what they thought about our service. And then we reviewed all of them, and we went through a third party called Real Satisfied. There's all kinds of different survey companies out there, but that's a great way to get an idea for how you did. And if there was an issue, you can always contact your client if you didn't know about it ahead of time and dig into it. Try to make up for it if there is an opportunity for improvement. Meetings, lunches, coffees, whatever you can do to stay in front of people. The best way to build a relationship is belly to belly breaking bread. That is the best way. So scheduling those with your top 10 clients is paramount. Make sure that you are scheduling a meeting that is in person and over food at least once a year with your top 10 list. Direct mail, we talked about some options for that. And then this should all lead to the last point on the timeline, to the touch point timeline, into referrals and repeat clients. Lastly, this is an overview of what we talked about. So you want to move on to the next one, Rick?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep, I got to keep switching screens so I can move.
That's all right. So we talked about your database system. We talked about how to have personalized interactions with clients and give you lots of examples on how to do that. Give you ideas if you are running dry on what to do and how to do it. There are more than 127 touch points on here that I gave you, especially if you work the events the way that we talked about. You can get 7 touch points with each client just off of one event, and maybe even more than that. And that's assuming they don't even attend. But it will provide increased lead generation. 100% it will provide increased lead generation. You can automate your outreach as well if you want. They have, if you're like, hey, I really want to get this out in front of everybody, use slide dial. You can do broadcast voicemail messages. You've probably received those from spam. And I'm not saying to spam people. What I am saying is if they're your clients, they're opted in, you can send them a broadcast message. If you're trying to leverage your time, you could do that. Obviously, the best thing is to call your database, but opportunity there. Same thing with texting. You can do mass texting to your database as well as emailing. And then this will improve your client retention, 100%. Rick, I think we have some upcoming events that make sure we tell everyone about. So this next one I'm super excited about. So next month, tell everyone you know to be here because we're going to talk about exactly what to say to buyers and sellers in today's market. I'm going to give you some very specific scripts that work to address the issues in today's market. These are scripts that I've used myself and they have worked every time. So if you are wondering what to say to your clients in today's market, and I'll have several different scenarios, we'll talk through what the scripts look like for that. And I'll do some role play with that as well. So don't miss that. That's on the 25th from 1 to 2. Next, if you're interested in leveraging relationships, I teach a program called Premier Connect. and you are welcome to join that. And our next it starts on September 26th, small group, up to 10 people. Sometimes we have a lot fewer than that. But we go through there and I will show you exactly how to generate $250,000 in GCI over and above what you are earning right now. And I will go just short of guaranteeing that because I've done it myself for 3 years. The program works and you don't have to make any cold calls. You don't have to make any prospecting calls, no door knocking. This is leveraging your existing relationships to send you 27 more referrals than you got this year. If that sounds good to you, you can send me an email and I'll tell you more information about it. See if it's right for you. If you want to learn more information about that, there is an intro workshop that I'm doing, and it's at the clubhouse. This is, if you know Jimmy Doolin, his place. It is a non-denominational office space, and I am doing a 1-hour free training on this, showing you how the program works. And if you resonate with it, you can sign up for the program after that. But it's completely free, and if you know Jimmy, he is a chef, and he has promised me that he is going to be home making some lunch for you as well as drinks. So make sure you're there for that. That's on September 17th from 12 to 1. Lastly, if you're looking for accountability and if you want to take your game up to the next level, let's talk about some one-on-one coaching. This is something that I have done myself for 25 years. I believe in it. It works. It has gotten me where I am today. If you are wanting some one-on-one coaching, or just if you want to learn more about it, give me a call, shoot me an email, what have you, and I'd be happy to let you know how it works and to see together if you might be a good fit or not for it. Not everybody is. But if that's something that you've really wanted in your life, a little bit more of that, I'd be happy to tell you a little bit more how that works. And then Rick, on our next slide, we have some contact information. So if you like what you heard from us today, call us, text us, email us. Let us know what you thought. What do we do well? What could we improve upon? What questions do you have? We would love to hear from you. If you don't have a lender who is doing some of this stuff, call Rick. He'd be happy to have a conversation with you, I'm sure, to see if you might be a good partner for him and how he can help you get more connections within your database to monetize the connections that you already have. Rick, any last thoughts?
No, I really think that I have a friend who's in your coaching,
Yep.
and I can't tell you how impressed I am with what you're teaching. I think that it's invaluable to have somebody who's done it and is teaching what they did. So many trainers don't train on what they did to become successful. They train on what they think they're supposed to say. And you actually train on exactly what to do, and you break it down in detail, and then you give them assignments so he goes and does it. And I'm impressed with him, and I'm also impressed with you. I think it's extremely impressive. I think anybody would benefit from it.
Not every single thing that I taught today is stuff that I've done in my own business, and it works. And I've done it for 25 years. I paid a lot of money to learn how to do this stuff, and it works. So there is one thing that my coaching clients know is I will never ask you or teach you to do something that I haven't done myself. So if this is stuff that resonates with you, know that this does work. This is tried and true. It is proven. It is guaranteed. If you do this stuff, you will see results. And I can guarantee it because I saw it in my own business. So if you have questions, if I can provide clarity, Rick, if he can help anything, I know we went over the financials fairly quickly. Rick's a smart dude. He would be happy to explain this more to you or help you understand it. If you're wanting to know about the bond market and the interest rates and the inverse relationship they have, he'd be happy to give you a little economics lesson if you want. If you don't care about any of that stuff, you're just like, I just want to send him to Rick and he can explain them. He's happy to do that too. So we just want to empower you to be knowledgeable and be a resource for your clients so you can have more fun in this business and do more of it. So if you like what you heard, come back next time. Make sure you tell all your friends about it. This is part of the Property Pro series, and we're going to be doing this every month with different ideas. So if you have a theme that you would like to hear us cover for one of the upcoming months, let us know, and we'll make sure we put it on our schedule. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much, and I apologize for running over. I apologize.
We're all good.